Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode, and this episode is very important because we will discuss about driverless drive deliveries. Already Malaysia and Singapore they are introducing driverless car. Many startup actually developing the solutions, but we have our world famous speaker Professor David Smith, Mr. Adam, and we will discuss on driverless deliveries. Hopefully, in the COVID-19 situation, it creates more opportunity for a startup. Professor David Smith, how you want to analyze uh, today's topic, and especially what are the benefit of driverless deliveries?
Thank you, Sharif. Driverless deliveries you can break down into several different components in different ways. What I'm going to do is focus on what we call uh, driverless last mile deliveries. So these are not the ones going on the highways between regions and cities, but it's really the ones aimed more in the local communities. And I love to look and see what the market size is in this driverless delivery marketplace. The market size in 2020 was actually $9 billion, and by 2028, it's supposed to reach about $60 billion. So a very fast compound annual growth rate as you begin to go there. Um, uh, you know, the last mile delivery of driverless delivery really looks at how you get a product or service to a customer's doorstep or a other destination without a human intervention, the whole process. Uh, sorry. And is to ensure that the delivery to the customer is in a set amount of time and that can get there. You've seen many different ways to begin it. Here in the United States, one of them that is interesting to me is Walmart Corporation, which is one of the larger companies, has begun to use driverless box trucks to deliver things from their lights out dark distribution centers where robots actually load the trucks to other centers uh, and in user points within the Walmart network. And this is not the small ones you see like delivering pizzas and other stuff like that. This is really the larger box trucks that can make more substantial deliveries. I think in the driverless delivery marketplace, that is a huge change as you see going forward. Uh, some of the other segments there is you can look at driverless delivery using vehicles on the road, but you also can look at driverless vehicles using drones, and we're seeing that. My favorite is looking at some of the drones delivering medicine or delivering pizza. Those are kind of the two larger use cases right now for the driverless drones delivering materials. And we're driving a vehicle to a address that's fixed, and you know it's fixed latitude and longitude. Once you do driverless delivery, for example, to the balcony of a high rise, you now have both an X, Y, and Z axis that you have to consider. And you're beginning to see those going forward. The most of the driverless vehicles uh, going forward, there's a whole range called automation where you have 5 levels, and level 5 is out of mind. Level 2 and level 3 are kind of where we are now because there is more operator assistance in there. For example, the Walmart delivery truck, uh, driverless delivery trucks, had to have a safety driver in for a while. That is now out of the newest test. So you see that changes. But how have these happened? We've seen the advances in AI in facial recognition, which goes beyond facial. It's recognizing objects in the wild. Machine learning, sensors like radar, LiDAR, GPS, computer vision. All of these are going into place that are helping the driverless deliveries happen. And because of that, there's a lot of opportunity. The the company working with Walmart is a small Californian company that has only about 20 employees right now. So there's a lot of opportunity for entrepreneurship. You can begin to go. The large players do not dominate this market at the time, so there's still plenty of opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Adam. Actually, I love to know more about European situation right now, the COVID-19 situation, and beside that, I want to know what is the opportunities different startup create through this kind of solution, like driverless car or driverless delivery. Mr. Adam.
Sorry, Sharif, could you just repeat that? Because I froze for a bit there. So
Oh, okay. I want to know more about European context right now.
hmm,
First thing first, what is the present situation right now in Europe in the COVID
yeah.
situation? As well as I want to know what is the impact of driverless deliveries in Europe.
Hmm. Well, as you know, I live in Nottingham, English City, and the council are quite keen on being at the forefront of new ideas and new projects, especially related to sustainability and uh, meeting uh, green credentials and government instructions on how to uh, look after the planet whilst still having an active infrastructure. So Nottingham was one of the first cities in England, uh, and I think in Europe as well, to introduce electric cars for different sectors. So specifically, the police force here has more electric cars, and also the taxi ranks in Outer Nottingham are also being replaced with electric.
Mr. Adam, I think he has internet issues. Mr. Shankar. So,
Yes,
what's yes, what's going on inside India, and especially I want to know that is India introducing these driverless deliveries? How your business forum actually working?
yeah. India just would follow the rest of the world in terms of adopting
Sorry about that.
these. Yeah,
Sorry about that. It
Mr.
happened again.
no
Can you hear me
problem.
okay now?
Please
Okay,
go
okay,
ahead.
Yeah, and
Mr. Adam.
yeah, thank you. And yeah,
I think again internet problem. Mr. Shankar.
Sure. So I'm just saying that India would definitely follow and try to adapt. But as you know, the Indian roads in many cities are different. But of course, the big cities like Delhi and Mumbai would definitely strive to adopt it as much as we have adopted the metros and the bullet trains. So it'll go by that. And understanding the opportunity is immense because when we call driverless vehicles, it means just not cars that we drive, but also there are different levels of vehicles that are probably uh, going to be rolled out. One being trucks, and logistics can improve a lot because it's controlled by sensors and navigational softwares. So, on a personal level, it's great because some of the things that we immediately understand is it would impact in terms of multitasking. Yeah. So a family is going, and the driverless vehicle can be programmed to go where it needs to go while you watch a movie, or whether you're conversing with your friends and family, and it takes you where it has to go because it's based on data points. And when you look at logistics, there's a huge impact of it because it's not just driverless. You can track it as and when, just like how we track the courier services. where the package is reached. As much as that, one can on time understand where the vehicle or the transport is going. And it's all robotic. Taxis are going to be there, which means that there will be huge companies coming in and having fleets of cars controlled by uh, controlling stations. And just like Uber is there, it'll go a step further, and one would be able to, order a service and program it and go where one has to go. So these kind of different levels of uh, things are going to be in place. An example would be a robotic vehicle that works on all kinds of surfaces all over the world and all year round. So we won't have challenges when you say there's a snowstorm and there's a mountainous area or anything. It will be so programmed that nothing of a weather change or a terrain change need to stop, because this is a technology based on programmable, navigational, solution based approach. So there are many more coming in the line, as much as I know. And this is where the driverless vehicles are going to go. That doesn't mean the drivers won't be required. They would be required, because the human element always remains the same, except that one would take a kind of a management role. You're not a driver, but a management of, let's say, traffic management, which you would know how to program for the entire day and use your car the way you want it. It will beep, it will kind of remind you this is the time to reach that place. So it'll be very intelligent in terms of how you can adapt and adopt and monitor. So much for the moment. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Adam. Thank you.
Hopefully that won't happen again. So yeah, as I was saying, in Nottingham there are some large scale changes and refitting of parts of the local transportation infrastructure across Nottingham, namely the replacement of cars being used by both the police and taxis, cabs, and I think private hire vehicles as well, with electric versions of the cars they have used already. Uh, and the Nottingham City Council and their partners and collaborators are successfully pushing agendas and campaigns to help Nottingham be a major player in setting a good example in terms of sustainability and green energy, with electric car replacements as well as cycling routes. Nottingham has quite a substantial cycling culture as well. So there's lots of cycle paths, and you see cyclists around Nottingham all the time going to work, and so yeah, and that helps create like an approachable atmosphere for Nottingham and its tourists and visitors. And with driverless cars specifically, I think one of the main advantages to having driverless cars is that not everybody has the right temperament for manually driving vehicles, and even taking driving lessons for learning to drive and taking the exams and the test at the end is very stressful for some people. Like with me, I don't think I have the right temperament myself. I get quite nervous and anxious, especially for certain tasks, like driving being one of them. Because I've got one of those minds where the more I try and concentrate and not think about something, the stronger it gets in my head. So it's quite a stressful activity for me, and unfortunately, I never didn't get as far as I was hoping to with my lessons. But um, I, so yeah, I've not caught up with the rest of the driving population, unfortunately. So I do feel a bit left behind regarding that, when it seems like everybody else is driving, except you or everybody else. But I think people will feel much easier about being transported in cars that they don't have to drive themselves. I think it would save a lot of accidents and incidents on the road.
Thank you. Professor David Smith, some of the technical aspect, I believe that if our audience can understand, it will be helpful. Like which sensor is used by self-driving vehicles, like self-driving car, what type of vehicles actually we use. And technologically, we would love to learn more that how USA actually utilizing this kind of technology, what will be the future of this market? Can you unmute, please?
there's multiple technologies used to enable this, and it really depends on the environment you're in, which are the primary ones. If I'm trying to converse in a very crowded environment, like what Shank was talking about with taxi cabs and things, your sensor suite and things are different than if I'm doing more in uh, a rural environment and others like that. But what the primary technology that has really advanced it is something called LiDAR, which is a laser type of radar. Uh, and uh, Many people are on the market with LiDAR that can do a 360-degree coverage. The key thing on LiDAR is it's very accurate and it can paint a picture for the machine vision in the system and the machine learning. So you not only know where the object is, you begin to know a lot of information about the object and give you feedback. Radar is also important. Radar is more of a big target type of response back, where LiDAR has a lot more fidelity and can tell you if it's a human or a dog or a cart, a bicycle, and like that. So you see those being used. One of the other sensors that is used is also a thermal sensor. And the thermal sensor helps you understand, is it alive? And it reads the signatures coming back that way. On the inside of it, and there's other sensors too. You have accelerometer sensors, all of those things tied into your normal vehicle, uh, because you want to know how fast you're going, the direction you're going. GPS is extremely important so that you know within very good detail where you are and where you're going. Um, Inside the vehicle, the main technologies, other than the ones that interface with the vehicle systems, are sorry, machine learning. Uh, Really, machine learning tied into multiple channels, because you're going to have machine learning with the data you have coming back from your sensors. You're going to have machine learning looking at route optimization. You're going to have machine learning that's tying into if the cities have it, the transportation control system. Sorry, control systems. Uh, the others, as you begin to that, there are the safety systems that are being developed. And that is one of the places where ethics are really struggling in the autonomous vehicle, the driverless delivery type things, because we understand the decisions that are required to get down the roads, what the speed limits are, where there's stop lights and things like that. But it's the unexpected things that cause the difficulty. Uh, it could be the 5-year-old uh, walking out in front of you, or a shopping cart coming out, and people over in the crosswalk. What decision do you make autonomously? And those are places where the ethics are still very much under development. And in most of the instances, we do not have regulations in place to govern this in a driverless delivery or drive autonomous car environment today. And so that's one place where there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But the elements are there. It just we're in the early stages of the 5 steps of autonomous driving and delivery.
Thank you. We have two other guests, one from India, from South Asia, Mr. Shankar, and another from Europe. So we have representation both from Asia and Europe. But I want to know more about social impact. First, I want to know from Mr. Shankar, what is the social impact of driverless car in India or South Asia?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, these technologies are going to change the very landscape of things to follow in India, South Asia. like the radar, the cameras, ultrasound, radio antennas, and all of that, while India is 80% still in its rural, and the employability, the employment that is required, and the people who might be out of jobs, when you consider the socio-political equation, you might have to reconsider certain policies. The 5G is going to come, and I think the driverless vehicles use a lot of 5G to transfer data, and for quick time sensors, ultrasounds, and stuff, 360-degree visibility. So it goes hand in hand with the kind of technology that is coming, and then the driverless vehicles. And along with that, the the employability has to be looked at, and the technology that is going to come. I know the Tesla's driverless car technology and all of that is coming in place, but it will be over a period of time, because we cannot jump the systems that are being deployed. So obviously, while there will be technologies as in technologies, but the overall networks have to be in place, which is what we are trying to see, whether we have to employ that or not, the 5G technology that is coming in India. And it is one good thing about the driverless vehicle is, having said that, all the challenges of the roadways and the traffic and the terrains, it can still be deployed. So there won't be a challenge with emerging markets to absorb the driverless vehicles, because it is high speed, it is highly uh, coded in terms of the data points and using AI and interfaces. The major challenge in India would be people, employment, and another thing is the skills required to incorporate the entire 5G networks, and uh, the driverless vehicles would increase a certain kind and quality of opportunities. But we need those kind of institutions to bring uh, those systems, the academics, and all of that in place. So it's kind of like a circular methodology to see where it is going. One has to really wait and watch when so many important issues with regards to the current technology policies itself is being discussed at the highest level. And there are pockets in India which will obviously very quickly incorporate, like in Hyderabad, Bangalore, Gurgaon, and many places. So this is where it is as of now. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Adam.
Thank you very much. Yeah, what's the social impact? So yeah, as I said before, one of the main advantages that I predict for driverless cars in society will be more freedom of movement and transportation for everybody, including personality types that are more predisposed to anxiety, nervousness, and such when it comes to and hypervigilance when it comes to driving and being on the road with other people that are a mixture of people who are better drivers than you, as well as people who are worse drivers than you. So you have to be alert all the time. You may have seen in the news recently that horrific 100 car pileup in Fort Worth in Texas state. 100 cars. And it wasn't just cars either. It was trucks and lorries as well. 100 vehicle pileup. You see the videos on YouTube. It's, oof. And people with anxiety might become very hyper vigilant at the wheel, which could paradoxically hinder and compromise their skills. Because with hypervigilance, you could be looking at lots of different things around you to the detriment of the things you should be paying more attention to, like the road, the wheel, and other drivers. Um, Another thing is that here in Europe, alcohol is still a mainstream staple of recreation and relaxation, probably always will be. And England in particular or Great Britain at large, has a massive drinking culture. So drunk driving is unfortunately quite commonplace here still. So driverless cars will help with that problem. One of the strange things about drunk driving incidents is a pattern where the person who is drunk seems to walk away from the crash, and the casualties are the people who were at the receiving end of it. It's very strange. And furthermore, and it's related to my previous point, public transportation here or anywhere can be rather sketchy, especially in certain locations at certain times, like midnight or the early hours, where people are, falling out of the nightclubs, people who are drunk or high on drugs, and sober people as well, at risk of being at the receiving end of someone's anger or bad manners and discourtesy, where these things risk escalating, especially if people with substance abuse issues and mental health problems are looking for trouble, maybe. So driverless cars will offer kind of protection against that if people stay in their bubbles, so to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. We have our subject matter expert, Dr. Eric. I think he has startup driverless cars and this kind of solution he also provides. So I want to know more from the industry. Dr. Eric, can you unmute, please?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Apologies for being a little late. I actually was coming back from working in with the autonomous vehicles that I sit behind the wheel in. So autonomous vehicles are a real thing. They are working. And really, the status right now that I see, there are minor technological tweaks that has to improve upon, but that's very minor detail. The key thing is the regulatory and other legal aspects. And of course, the final part is adoption by the market. Does the market want to have something like this? In the human transporting people, that is a valid question. For transporting goods and products, that is already answered, because the people who are along the supply chain, if they can take out the drivers from the equation, they would love to do that, because it's an expense that they no longer have to pay. And it's not an insubstantial amount of money for the expense. It's a huge amount of money. And for places like California, and I'm sure everywhere else around the world, there's another expense, in which is the cost to maintain the roads due to the large, extremely heavy semis, the large 18-wheeler trucks. Okay, those things, when they're loaded up, they weigh, I don't know how much, it's like 40,000 pounds. That's, what is that, 200 pounds, 20 or 40 tons or whatever it is. It's a huge amount. And that weight causes the asphalt on the roads to buckle and collapse and break and crack. And there's an equation somewhere that shows that it's not a linear relationship, in the sense that if you double the weight of the truck, you don't double the amount of damage to the road, but you actually like quadruple or eightfold increase. It could go by the cube of the weight. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but it's a polynomial increase. Okay, and so what that means is that if you only have just automobiles, regular cars, that passenger type cars, if you have that, your roads will almost never be damaged. Okay, but once you have something like trucks that weigh 20,000, 40,000 pounds loaded, then you're going to get the damage. And these things are not cheap to fix. These, they're almost like $1 million a mile to fix. And in addition to the fixing, it's a whole lot of delays, right? You have to cordon off that lane or whatever you have to do, or you have to do this overnight. And all these things takes time and effort, and it delays everybody else, and it causes pain for everyone else. And if you can eliminate that by having smaller sized trucks, okay, trucks that only carries maybe 5 tons at most, 10,000 pounds. Okay, if you have trucks that carries only 5 tons at most, then you can do it. But if you have human drivers, then you need to increase the number of drivers by fourfold, okay, and that's unattainable. You don't have enough people willing to drive to be able to do that. But with an autonomous vehicle, then you can have any number of vehicles, and that will work. And that way, the government will be in favor of having autonomous vehicles, because then they can have smaller size vehicles, and it doesn't cost anything more. For the owner of the trucking company, buying 3 small ones would equal the cost of buying 1 large one. So, you know, the math for them doesn't work. Works out for them, so they're happy with it in that case. And because it's now autonomous and it's electric, then you lower the cost of the maintenance as well. No more oil change, no more transmission, transmission oil. None of those things have to be done because it's all electric. Okay, and that's the way the world will go very soon, especially in the transport of goods. And this is not just the short haul transport of goods, meaning going from a distribution center to the retail shops, but also the long haul distribution of goods, meaning going from the dock where the ship dock and then put the things into the land, all the way, halfway across the country, that kind of a thing. Those kind of transport, the long distance, the medium, and the short haul will all go autonomous because it's cheaper and easier and safer. Now, what have you, I don't know which one, talked about the employment and what happens to the truck drivers and all that. Frankly, the truck drivers is only one part, right? Within the trucking industry, truck drivers is just one element. There are also all the people doing things in operations and in maintenance and supply and support and all that. All those people are still going to be doing those things. The trucker himself or herself will be eliminated for sure, but they can move in to work in other areas. And the best thing they can do is become a salesperson for the autonomous vehicle. They would go to the next trucking company and say, hey, I cost $120,000 a year. This truck eliminated my job. You will save $120,000 having to pay your employees, the trucker. And it does it faster, quicker, and cheaper. You should buy an autonomous vehicle. That's the best thing that a trucker could say, and they will sell it like hotcakes. So that's all I can say at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Very interesting. Professor David Smith, another things I have in mind, let's say, in traditional way, many drivers actually get employments through this, like present conditions and other thing. And if we shift from this driverless car and driverless delivery, do you think it create unemployment or it create more opportunity?
Well, it's going to create a lot of opportunities, and I can tell you, at least here in the United States, we're having troubles actually finding enough truck drivers and delivery people. And I believe that's a global challenge today. One of the things you have to do with autonomous vehicles, and particularly the autonomous trucks, is it takes a fair amount of time to learn the routes. In the first experiment with Walmart, with their box trucks, which are the size that Dr. Eric described, as opposed to the 18-wheelers, they spent 7 months with drivers mapping all the routes. So this is just going out doing detail 3D mapping of the streets, the elements around there. It's going to take drivers to do those. It's kind of interesting when you begin to see Google Maps and others like that. There was a lot of effort put in place to have the roads mapped using LiDAR and the other technologies to make it where the maps are more accurate. Now, as we're getting more accurate maps, we're having to remap those areas to be suitable for autonomous driving. So there's going to be a lot of employment opportunities there. The other places, as we heard earlier, is you're going to see drivers shift more into supervisory roles. They might be the ones who are supervising a fleet of 10 delivery trucks and ensuring that they meet the things and adjust the logistics. They're going to be the ones helping the software do predictive analysis of saying, I know the town, and when we see something happen over here, it's going to impact this road much later or very fast. Uh, and eventually the machines will learn that, but you're going to have humans doing that for quite a while. Many of the pilots on this require safety drivers who are feet off, hands off, but they're in the truck. And you're seeing that. The going back to the Walmart one, it's interesting. They do not no longer have safety drivers, but what they have is customer ambassadors in some of the trucks, where their sole function is to make sure where it's delivered, are they satisfied? Because it's a difference. I told in an earlier episode of being at dinner recently where they were using autonomous robots to deliver the food from the kitchen to the table. And the robot transferred through the restaurant, avoided people and stuff, which I was impressed with. But then it brought the food and it stopped at the foot of our table. And a waiter came out and actually delivered the food to us on the table. Well, you're seeing the same thing in driverless deliveries. The goal is to make sure that it can get from point A to point B, C, D, E safely, because many of these driverless deliveries are wanting to do multiple stops, multiple customers. But then you still need to have a way to interact with the customers. Um, because of COVID, we've become very accustomed to doing it over video like we are today. But for many places where I'm taking delivery of a product, it's still that interaction. Again, because of COVID, at least here in the United States, our delivery services like FedEx, the services we have, such as when Amazon or Walmart or others deliver to us at our house, they used to always ring the doorbell. They no longer do that. The early days of FedEx, you had to sign for every single FedEx. They no longer do that. And you're going to see that type of transitioning in the driverless deliveries as well. So yes, it will affect employment, but going back to a thing you've heard from me now 50 times, we're in a time of lifelong learning. And the people who are drivers today should start learning how to do some of these other things to advance their skills. And they should be more successful with that.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Shankar. You are from India. Definitely, there in India there is a billions of people in South Asia, huge amount of people. But I want to know, like, if any corporations want
Yeah.
to apply this driverless deliveries, what are the challenges it has, and what do you think? It's create opportunity for Indian market, or it's create uh, different barriers?
I think we are at a time when adaptation is the key. Whichever part of the world, we need to see how the technologies are going to improve the quality of life. And at the same time, see, are we aligned to the 17 SDGs, which is crucial. And I see that the potential of these driverless vehicles going by and being compliant with the environment, for example, and they're electric vehicles for sure. All of that adds up to the fact that we are going to be prominent in terms of being an educated lot, which is required in terms of adaptation, and everybody needs to embrace it because it is never. I do not agree that there will be challenge for people. There will be only challenge for people from a point of maybe their inertia or their resistance to adapt this change. That is on a personal level. But from a governmental and policy level, somehow countries also need to align themselves and match the standards of where we are all going as a united planet. So, what applies to one country needs to be quickly adapted in another country. Or we need to support this whole opportunity. One is about adapting and getting into the game of just like any other industry that's coming. Sometimes technologies are developed in one part of the world, from another part of the world, something else is added. But we can't overlook that India will be a prominent player in whatever it takes to be there. It's not just about the employability of the drivers, it is also what can be supplied in terms of software and technology and AI and sensors. So it's a huge, huge shift in the game of transportation, which has never occurred before. We can't even think about it. Just like yesterday, I was talking about uh, the robos. Any difficult task needs to be deployed, the drudgery. But we learned to be in that state whole of our life and not do the things that human beings are supposed to do. And I'm very much for this driverless vehicles, what it can take us to the next level and do some quality work and be creative. And who knows, the time saved, the effort saved can actually jump us to the next level and do things which was never accessible before. So this is where I think the countries which are behind, so-called, can actually uh, set the pace and go along with the times. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Adam, what's your experience from Europe, especially how it creating opportunity, driverless delivery in European cultures, or what type of challenges you have?
Well, I know in my local area, my city, Nottingham, um, unfortunately, homelessness has spiked, and obviously living here all my life, I've seen it get worse and worse, and it seems to be happening exponentially. I mean, even I don't the just going around the city now, like today, I see lots of homeless people, and it seems like there wasn't even half this number of homeless people 2 years ago, 1 year ago, and it's very very unsettling. I mean, yeah, Nottingham is a beautiful city, but like with every city, it has its problems. And even though I praised the Nottingham City Council for taking the initiative with certain issues like sustainability and green energy and such, I think the homelessness and the homeless population in Nottingham is something that really needs to be tackled. And it was so it kind of links in with what we were talking about with automation. And Professor David raised a good point about truck drivers, which of course loops back round to our previous discussion about supply chains. So obviously with driverless vehicles, not just cars, but trucks, lorries, all other types of vehicles, driver shortages won't be an issue. So supply chains by then, in the very near future, will be able to continue moving and be less compromised by events like what we've been seeing recently with driver shortages and of course with the cargo ship backlog. It might take a while longer, but I do think in our lifetime we will see the dawn of driverless, or should I say crewless ships, including big tankers. Although a part of me thinks that even by then there will still be jobs and tasks that still require a human presence. Um, is driverlessness and crewlessness desirable? It is if you want to make more profit and you're in a privileged position near the top. So I think to respond to a question about job opportunities, I think unemployment might skyrocket around the world, contributing to an underclass of rudderless, depressed, impoverished people. And I think these kinds of technological revolutions risk dissolving middle classes completely into a more two-strata global society of billions of have-nots and 100,000 haves and some floating Paris. But a big factor in unemployment and depression is feeling like a spare part where no one relies on you, but you have no life's task, no craft, nothing to pass down, no legacy, no opportunities for learning, let alone lifelong learning. But I hope to be gravely mistaken. I noticed a bit of going on holiday and going to other countries in Europe and cities. I've noticed that uh, it, it seems to be like that in other cities as well, where there's a spike in poverty, and I think the hubris of living in a Western first world nation it causes a bit of a blindness to it, because you think, oh well, we're an affluent society, this won't be around forever, it'll correct itself. But if we're not careful, it won't, and it's poverty is something that really needs to be tackled head on, and I do fear that automation may worsen the situation. So again, not to be alarmist, but yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Eric Du. So what's your view from Silicon Valley?
Well, I like to perhaps give a more up-to-date view of the state of the art of the technology, since I actually literally stepped out of an autonomous vehicle maybe 2 hours ago. So for one thing, yes, you do have to do mapping, because you need to know where A Street is and where 13th Avenue is and so forth. So you need to do the mapping in that sense. But once you're on 13th Avenue, okay, how the car will navigate to go around, a traffic cone, or a car that's stuck, double parked vehicle, or an emergency vehicle that's stopped there to help doing some first aid. How that autonomous vehicle navigate around those things, that's done on the fly by that autonomous vehicle. You don't need mapping knowledge to do that part. The mapping part is just to make sure that you go to the right street that you're going to. But the final details of how it's going to get there is still done by the vehicle itself, with its AI or whatever kind of algorithm it has, with the cameras and the lidars that are attached to the vehicle to sense like how close they are to oncoming cars, how stationary objects, and so forth. So that is done. Okay, and not only is it done, it is a heck of a lot better than any human. Okay, so when I hear people say, oh, they're going to have a human being sit in the car or sit in the truck to monitor. Why do you want to monitor the autonomous vehicle? The autonomous vehicle should be monitoring humans, because the humans are the ones with the fallibilities. The autonomous vehicle will not make the mistakes that the humans will. Okay, humans have vision problems, they have reaction problems, they're distracted, they're impaired. All those kind of things do not occur with autonomous vehicles. Okay, autonomous vehicles right now have a whole battery of sensors that go from they use radio waves all the way to I don't think they use X-rays, but 5G, but to visible light, right? So visible light is what humans can see, but radio waves is 1/1,000,000th the size and frequency, and you use that for various signalings and detection, and lidar and everything else. None of those human beings have within our body, so it's way beyond the scope of what humans can do. Okay, the autonomous vehicle can react and brake so much faster, okay, than a human can. And I'm not even just saying, like the reaction time. Human reaction time is about 0.3 seconds, if you know what to expect, okay? And if you're trained very well, you may be able to react in 0.25 seconds, a quarter of a second, all right? But if you're just driving along and some funky thing happened, like a rock comes down from a hill, you don't know what to do. You don't expect it. You don't know. You just watch it come and you crash into it because you don't even know what to do. Okay, autonomous vehicles will know what to do. Okay, it doesn't mean that they won't get crushed by a flying rock. I mean, karma happens, or I don't think it's karma, but fate happens, and things will happen. Accidents will happen with autonomous vehicles, but it isn't because the autonomous vehicle made the mistake. Okay, acts of gods will happen. But here's one thing that's really true, is that when you step on that brake in your car, there's a little resistance, right? When you step on it, there's a resistance. You cannot go from touching the brake pad to completely pushed and stopped. You can't do that instantaneously, all right? Because there's a resistance. There's springs or whatever it is that they have that slows down your pressing. Okay, autonomous vehicle doesn't have that resistance. They go from nothing to braking way faster than you can do by humans. Okay, because the humans have to react with a mechanical device, and that mechanical device has a resistance to it that is not present in the autonomous vehicle. So that's why when I'm sitting in the autonomous vehicle and I'm driving along and somebody just pops right in front of us, we go wham, boom. Okay, we stop like we really hit the wall. Okay, I think it's actually too strong. Okay, and for us as a passenger, it becomes unwieldy. We're slamming into we're being pressed into the seat belt, and we're slamming back into our seat. It's kind of uncomfortable. They're working on it to make it a little bit better, to make it more pleasant for the passengers. But it saves the life of that pedestrian that walked in front. It saves the life of a I don't know, maybe a wild dog that runs in front or something like that. Okay, so well, not wild. I mean, some unleashed dog or something like that. So the autonomous vehicle can outdo everything that a human can do right now. Okay, so for people to say, "Oh, we need a human to watch over," it's like, why? Why do you want to do that? You don't want to have to do that. I sit behind the wheel, and I'm supposed to take over if something happens, and I go like, why? Why do I want to do it? And I rarely take over. The only time I take over is when we have to physically take over to get back into the garage, because during that time the autonomous vehicle is not capable of getting into the garage on its own. So we manually have to do that part. That's it. So that's a little bit of clarification. The technology really is there, okay? And it really is far more advanced than I think a lot of people who aren't physically in these things on a daily basis understand. And from my point of seeing it, over the past 6 months, I've been involved with this autonomous vehicle company for the past 6 months, is that the advances have been noticeable, significantly noticeable by me, that I go like, wow, what I'm seeing today is, heads and shoulders above what I saw 2 months ago, 4 months ago, 6 months ago. So you have to really be there to see the transition in the technology and its capabilities.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Eddie. We have our associate from Costa Rica, Ms. Norris. So thank you for joining today's sessions. We are discussing about driverless deliveries. So what you want to share with us, especially you can share from Costa Rica, what's going on, what is the future of driverless delivery in Costa Rica?
Hi, greetings to all. Thank you, Shankar, for the invite. So, greetings from Costa Rica, pura vida, I can say. Here, the government is having they would like to have the whole electric system with cars and also with public transport. So this is a main goal for 2030. So the only issue here, I was listening to you guys, and I'm wondering how can we do it here, because we don't have the best streets here. It rains 8 months in a year, so the condition of our streets are not the best. So I'm clueless about how and what can we do like improve it here. It would be awesome because we have a lot of accidents, as the Dr. Eric was telling us about how the drivers are not fit enough just to take people or just to be in a transport. But I'm wondering when will arrive to Costa Rica that type of system or that type of technology. And it's pretty important because many people they pass every year, and the main reasons besides COVID, just it's about accidents. now we have a train system, old train system. So we have an issue because a lot of people pass away trying to gain the game with the train, for example. So it's pretty stupid sometimes. And also, I'm wondering if a public transportation will gamble with this type of technology. We need it because we don't have the best drivers with buses, and we have also issues with it. So I would not say that it's all risky, but we don't have the best skilled drivers in the public system. So this system might be improved in the best way with the public system. So, and again, it's investment in the roads, investment with the with the transport, and also uh, making the population, like the people, to trust in this technology, because old-fashioned ways to think, maybe not too many people are open about these technologies, or maybe they be afraid because they don't know them. And for me, in a person, I'm pretty excited about that. I like to drive, but I know then it's not the best um, skill that I can have. But if we need this just to be safe for everyone, I have kids, for example, and I know then it's a lot of lost with the people who drive drunk, or and also with kids. So it's still another issue. Now in December with the holidays, increase the car accidents because the drinking problems and also partying and so on. So this will be really, really resolving a big problem, a big issue about uh, public health, right? So right now, from Costa Rica, the first thing is just like Costa Rica has clean energy. 90% of our energy is clean resource. And the next step, I think the electric, it's a big issue here. And after that, it would be great just to have this technology. You know, I don't know how long it will take to arrive to Costa Rica. Hopefully sooner, for the good for everyone, right?
Yes. Yes, thank you. Thank you for your views. Mr. Iftekhar Pathan, are you available? Mr. Pathan. Okay. Okay. I think he's not available. Thank you. This is really nice discussion, and especially we get views from different country, from Europe, from North America, from India, from Costa Rica. That is the beauty of World Talent Economy Forum. We have some good news from 1 December. We have largest summit with the Rwanda governments. Many ministers and diplomats from different countries already. Uh, Netherlands, Japan, uh, Nigeria, and different diplomat, they confirm they will join in our upcoming event. Besides that, World Talent Economy Forum providing policy research to Rwanda, and we will train 600 entrepreneurs next 1 year in Rwanda. So this is first we start with Malaysian government, then we start with Rwanda, but next 12 months, hopefully we will collaborate with 30 different countries, and definitely we need all of your support, especially the speakers, the board of advisors, those who join in World Talent Economy Forum. We are developing as a think tank, so your experience, your expertise always important, always valuable for World Talent Economy Forum. And especially audience, please share our content with your government, with your corporation, with your academy. And this is the way we will grow. So From December 1 to December 10, we have very interesting dialogue. And World Talent Economy Forum always focused on national contribution, national development. So in the COVID-19 situation, this is more important. So we are happy to collaborate with governments. We are happy to collaborate with corporations and academy. This is the way we will grow together. Thank you everyone for joining today's session. I directly want to go for the concluding remarks. Professor David Smith, what's your concluding remarks today?
Sharif, great session because this is going to impact so much of society. So love how you choose that type of program. Norris, I love listening to you talk about the transportation in your country. I have to agree, when I visited there, the drivers are crazy. But really enjoy it. But you're not as bad as you are around Cancun and Cozumel, though. They're much worse. So put your blessings there, and I would love to come and visit you
Thank you
this
so much.
Christmas. But
Yeah, the weather is
the
summer here, so you're
uh,
more welcome.
before the
Okay.
show started, I told Sharif I wanted to go where there's sand and salt water, but that's a whole nother story. Driverless deliveries, though, are really something that will change the way we do things. You are going to see, like they talked about earlier, uh, the long haul trucking will be some of the early entries, and we already see that happening. Down the toll road from my house here in Austin, uh, they're going to begin construction very soon on the Tesla long haul truck. And we already see the cabs and stuff being tested here in Austin. Uh, and so it's making a lot of progress going that way. The local deliveries of the intermediate, let me call this, the size that Dr. Eric and others were talking about earlier, the box type delivery, we're going to see a lot of progress there. I agree with Dr. Eric that a safety driver is not really optimum there, because the amount of time that a safety driver has to react is even worse than if I'm a hands-on driver there. So they're not going to be there to be able to be as a backyard thing. I was involved pretty heavily with some of the autonomous things that are being used in the military. And many of those are still classified as you look at the system. But autonomous capabilities have come a long, long way. The sensor suites are well proven. The base analytics are well proven. Um, and you're going to see that. We are now seeing military autonomous vehicles that are taking people out of the loop, even for things like kill decision. So again, the technology is progressing very rapidly, and we're going to see that. Um, what is missing in some of these areas? There is still a shortage of people who can put these together. I sent Sharif an article recently of our colleges in Central Texas working with Tesla to develop new capabilities, from technicians to people who understand how to create in a multiple axis space. Because when you're talking about autonomous deliveries, you're in a multi axis. You have to see what's ahead of you, what's aside of you, what's behind you, and yes, even what's above you. Some of the failures of some of the autonomous trucks I really find interesting is where they run into traffic overpasses because they were not mapping, they were not reacting to the Z axis as much. It was not prioritized. And we see that, but there's a lot of opportunities there. The whole way it changes logistic. Uh, also down the street from me is one of the. It just came online about a month ago, 2 months ago. An Amazon fulfillment center that is mostly lights out. So it's mostly robots doing the picking, the packing, putting them together to be able to put onto autonomous delivery vehicles, driverless delivery vehicles. That whole side of it is going to be a growth of employment to be able to do that, and a growth of technicians and other things needed, and smart developers who can work in that way and understand the nuances. Two, for a developer to work in an autonomous environment, they have to understand the vast majority of what if can happen as opposed to what they expect to happen. Where most of the time we write code for what we want it to do and don't handle all this vast exceptions. And that's where we get the errors as we see stuff like the 404 error if your browser is trying to go someplace that they didn't expect you to go. Well, that becomes much more important as you do driverless deliveries, as you do autonomous vehicles. And they're beginning to do, there's some great learning libraries out there that companies are using, both in Silicon Valley, in Boston corridor, the 128 corridor here in Austin, and others in Atlanta, where you see a lot of work going on in autonomous vehicles. And again, don't just think of driverless deliveries on the road. Think of robotics as a delivery vehicle too. Think of drones. We were working with one food company that really was targeting places like New York, Chicago, Tokyo, and places like that, where the vast number of people live in high rises. And we were working with them on what's the technology suite to be able to deliver to a balcony through a window on the 29th floor. So that is a whole new way of look at driverless deliveries too. So it's a very big bucket of applications, of opportunities, and an equally big bucket of technologies that can be applied to solve those solutions. So great opportunities, but the regulatory environment is the one that's really not caught up with what's happening.
Thank you, Professor David Smith. Mr. Shankar, what's your concluding remarks?
My concluding remarks, it's nice to see Norris, that she is able to represent from Costa Rica. Thank you for joining us. And one thing I wanted to bring to was Dr. Eric was speaking about how one can know from behind this a truck is coming or something else, there's a car in front, and from here you want to change your route. And that's really AI predictive analysis. But the beauty of driverless cars is that it's on time. So they can communicate between driverless vehicles. The vehicles are communicating to each other. That is the shift. Not just that, the people walking on the footpaths, the people who are pedestrians, they are connected to the driverless vehicles through the mobile technology. So, what in a sense is happening is it is not one off. A driver is driving somewhere, he's part of the entire grid. That is what is exciting, that we are able to uh, you know, take the risks, possible risks aside and have a much smoother way. And as David said, that, we are able to reach places which we cannot reach otherwise because driverless vehicles actually include almost everything. So it is the translation of what we are doing right now on the net. We are able to reach, like FedEx can reach a parcel wherever it reaches currently, but with driverless vehicles, the game is upped. Same thing with anything else. And thanks, Mr. Adam. Thanks, Sharif, for a wonderful evening of saying something and learning a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Shankar. Thank you, Mr. Shankar, for your continuous support. Madam Narish, what's your conclusion remark and what you want to add for our audience?
I think for Central America, by the way, this area is Central America, and we need a lot of investment. So I think this is a great opportunity for many. Maybe Tesla will take the chance just to invest in Central America. Right now, we have a lot of investment from Thailand and from China. They just improving some areas. For example, they give to Costa Rica the stadium, the football stadium, for example, that was from China, and we have some bridges from Thailand. So I think Costa Rica is ready for people who like to invest in this area, and also David and everyone just to enjoy as well. But I think in this opportunity, then it's Central America is not the richest spots in America Latina. So yeah, I think it's a big opportunity just to down, like bring some investments, and it's a big chance just to improve. Costa Rica has a, I don't know, how can I call it? For the rest of America Latina, they call Costa Rica the Sweden spot, because that's the best country who has development and also foreign investment. So here there's a lot of going on, mainly with foreign companies besides tourism. So this is a huge opportunity just to invest in these technologies. I would do so. I do believe it, and also became Costa Rica really competitive, and also just people who had a chance just to survive sometimes. Like yes, we have the goal for electric transport. Now we have the goal to healthy and safety transport, please. So that's my conclusion. I think I do believe in this, and I do believe that is a huge opportunity for all. Greetings to everybody. Welcome always here.
Thank you. Thank you for Costa Rica. Definitely World Talent Economy Forum. Actually very specialized on public-private partnerships. We arrange training, we arrange open dialogues, and many largest corporations, governments, they naturally join in World Talent Economy Forum dialogue. I think you can attend even our upcoming public-private partnership dialogue with African nations. Many ministers and many ambassadors and many important corporations they will join. So this is important. Definitely develop and definitely World Talent Economy Forum is an advocate for modern science, engineering, and technology, and our target for developing worlds like Costa Rica, like Malaysia, like India, like Bangladesh, like Africa, because they need more support. On the other hand, we need to work with the developed world. Uh, let's say we have our friends and our board of advisors from Dr. Eric Dew, Professor David Smith, Mr. Sean Coates, even Adam, our core teams. So hopefully we have a very interesting updates. You can observe from our YouTube channel WTE Forum. This is our 421 episode. So lot of valuable things, valuable informations you will get from our episode. And I want to invite you all our upcoming public-private partnership dialogue. It will be very important for developing nations. Uh, Thank you, Madam Norris, for joining today's session. Dr. Eric Dew, what's your
Thank you.
concluding remark today? Yes, Dr. Eric.
Yeah, my closing statement. All I can say is that the future looks bright. The future is here. Okay, and I can't wait to wait for the regulatory, all the paperworks to be done, and then have people actually sit in these vehicles, as well as the delivery for goods and products. So that's really it. I mean, we're here. It's other people say, "Oh, we're 5 years away. We're 10 years away." No, we're not that. We're 6 months away. You know, dot the I's, cross the T's, and we'll be ready to go.
Excellent. Actually, World Talent Economy Forum, we have very special episode on techno policy. So we are interested to work with this kind of driverless cars and modern science and modern technology, which will be very helpful for us. So yes, we are interested to do research on driverless car, which will, I'm sure it will be very helpful. Already Malaysia and Singapore, they're heavily utilizing this technology. They're inventing by their team. I think Dr. Eric know that we have some startup as well. Mr. Adam, what's your concluding remarks today?
Thank you, Sharif. Just to speak a little bit more about some of what I was saying before already, we do like to think that automation will give us enough free time and resources to dedicate towards creative endeavors self-improvement, people living their best lives, and some grand utopic vision of the future where we will all live in peace forever. But I think welfare is a dramatic counterexample that more free time, resources, freebies, and handouts just create an environment and lifestyle of weaponized comfort where the total opposite self-improvement is becomes the norm sometimes. So it's discipline, structure, a healthy dose of just the right amount of hardship that strengthens impulse control, motivation, drive. So consider the mouse utopia experiment and the unsettling conclusion of that experiment. I know humans are not mice, but still consider it. So it's a case of use it or lose it. Always try to be aware and ask yourselves the question, if this becomes automated, what part of the human's brain, character, spirit, skill set would atrophy? Or if that becomes automated, what else would that atrophy? Part of us would it affect the most in that way? I like Dr. Eric's description of this issue, and certainly does seem that human beings must be protected from not just other human beings, but also themselves. And AI, computers, robots might be ideal for filling that role of the protector. I don't think we have much choice in the matter, but yeah, when you see how people treat others and themselves, sometimes even for a brief couple of seconds, the idea of a benevolent dictator can seem more appealing. But yeah, we don't want to give away we don't want to outsource our skills and our talents completely to machines. But I've got two sides. I've got a bit of an alarmist side, but I also am a passionate futurist. So yeah, it's an exciting time to be alive for sure. So thanks, Sharif.
Thank you. This is really great discussions, and definitely this is very very helpful technology for us. And thank you, Professor David Smith, Mr. Shankar, Mr. Adam, Dr. Eric Dews, and Ms. Norris for joining today's sessions. And hopefully, with our collaborations and partnerships, we can solve many problems of the developing worlds. Thank you. Bye bye, and take care.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you. Bye bye.
Thank you.